Gentlemen, make sure you stay on the line because this is your RX for Forex. The gentleman that I bring before you right now has his PhD in finance and economics. He is traveling around the world educating. He's helping a lot of people. He's having a lot of fun doing so. And he's here tonight to bring you your RX for Forex. So without further ado, I want to turn this call over to none other than Dr. Craig Bythewood. Dr. Bythewood, are you on the call?
Yes, I am, Ms. Dyer. Thank you very much for your introduction. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. Happy Tuesday to you. Congratulations to each of you that sincerely accepted the BYOB challenge, because the BYOB challenge is more than just words. It is a movement that literally can put you in the place that you need to be to make this rectangle be of benefit to all those behind you, all of those that are behind the muted mic, all those individuals that are in your home, that are in your circle, that are under the sphere of your influence, that you have an opportunity to touch. So as we continue on this ride of touching 1 million families by March 2021, I just want to applaud you for continuing to be on this journey. Although I comment very little, I always follow the comments that we make in the Telegram chat and the comments that we make in the WhatsApp chat, because I want to really keep my finger on the pulse of what you all are saying, what you all are asking, how you all are feeling. And I use that as energy to know what information I need to cover in these calls. So I think it's very important tonight that I give you a crash course on what I call financial mathematics or economic statistics. What are those? Those are topics that individuals that get undergraduate degrees in finance or economics find challenging. Those are topics that individuals that get MBAs, masters in business administrations, masters in finance, masters in economics, they usually have issue with the math. They have issue with the numbers. And let's just for a second dive into why that is. You see, each one of us is born with a natural, organic methodology in the way in which we think. You know, there's right brain, there's left brain. Nothing we can do about that. It's just the way we were born. You can have two siblings born with the same exact parents and the same exact upbringing, but they process information differently depending on whether they're right brain or left brain. Now, if you're one or the other, then you naturally are able to process ideas. And if you're one or the other, you naturally are able to look at numbers and be able to see equations for what they are. Now, the issue is that we sometimes in our society have a tendency to focus on what we don't do, or focus on what we can't do, or focus on what is an issue. So oftentimes, rather than developing that part of the brain that needs developing, we focus on that part of the brain we feel comfortable with, and then we ignore the other side. Something else we do as humans is we oftentimes label ourselves based on the part of the brain that is dominant, or based on the part of the brain that is not dominant. How about I give you a real life example snatched from the headlines of my life? So when you look at the name underneath my face, it says Dr. Craig Bythewood. Now, in order for it to say Dr. Craig Bythewood, 25 years ago, I earned a PhD in finance and economics. So as I do different things in my professional life and people call me doctor, they do it with a certain sense of respect and a certain sense of credentialism. This guy has his PhD from the University of Florida, so he's this or he's that or he's this. But I wonder how they would feel if they knew the backstory. I wonder how it would be if there was an asterisk next to that doctor that said, well, tell them how you got here. Tell them what you went through. So how about I do it? So in the 6th grade, yes, we're going back there. In the 6th grade, I had a teacher named Miss Luella Peniston. And Miss Luella Peniston is getting a shout out tonight because she was the first one that told Craig Bythewood that he was smart. Prior to Miss Luella Peniston, I really did not realize I was smart. I was caught up in trying to be a male. I was caught up in trying to be funny. I was caught up in trying to, be what the ladies wanted. I really didn't take school seriously, and I honestly did not recognize that I was intelligent until Miss Luella Peniston. So once Miss Luella Peniston told me I was smart, now that label, hear me, that label that she gave me, I wanted to walk in that label. So how about I pause for a second and say this. Oftentimes, we walk in the label that we put on ourselves, whether it's a good one or a bad one, whether we want it or don't want it. Oftentimes, we walk in the label that we put on ourselves, whether we want it or don't want it, whether we like it or don't like it. We put the label there and we walk in that label. So bottom line, because Miss Luella Peniston told Craig Bythewood that he was smart, he began to walk in that. So one of the things that I noticed as I went from 6th grade onward is that all my classes were very easy because I was walking in the swag that Miss Peniston gave me, except for math. Every time I walked into a math class, ladies and gentlemen, every time I walked into a math class, BYOB members, every time I walked into a math class, I began to struggle. It wasn't as easy for me to pick up the material as it was every other class. So guess what I did? I wore a different label that was self-imposed. And that label was, I'm bad at math. Oh, come on. Y'all know I'm not the only one that has put that label on yourself. Some of you in this call tonight have put that label on yourself because I could feel the anxiety energetically as we were going through the numbers. Some of you have done the same thing that I did in the 6th grade. You put that label on yourself, I'm bad at math. Now watch this. Because Ms. Peniston made me believe that I was smart and I wanted to walk in that label, it was important that I had a certain GPA, a certain grade point average. Grade point average wasn't important to me before that. By the way, guess what GPA is? It's an index. Why are you bringing that up? Because one of the things we're doing as we develop this skill is we're getting better at understanding how to trade on the indices. And just understand the indice is nothing but a collection of numbers that is used to reflect a certain point. So GPA is used to reflect the point that this is the amount of grades that you, or this is the level of grades that you've achieved. Just like the US 30 is an index that represents how certain companies are trading. Just like the S&P 500 is an index that tells you how 500 companies are trading. It's the same thing. The companies trade higher, you get a higher grade, then it goes up. Your grades go down, the companies begin to perform poorly or individuals are selling them, it goes down. All I'm doing is throwing that out there because as we begin to understand how simple these concepts are and we put our shoulders down and don't wear these labels that people have told us that finance and economics is hard, it just becomes easier for us to make our money, to get our pips, get our points, get our abundance. So back to the story at hand, I put this label on myself, I'm bad at math. So watch what Craig Bythewood did. I was able to recognize that I was charming. So I would go to a teacher before the class started and say, hi teacher, my name's Craig Bythewood. I have a very high GPA, but I'm bad at math. So can I do some extra credit for you so that I can get a good grade? Now, that's really not on me because I was young and I didn't understand the concepts of life, but the teachers enabled me because what they should have done is help me to remove the label. But actually, I'm glad they didn't because what that did was create a situation that allowed you to be blessed by this message. So what they did was they said, okay, sure, we'll let you erase the boards. We'll do this. We'll let you do that so you can get extra credit so you can get an A in math. And when I tell you I did this from 7th grade all the way on to my senior year. If it was math, I asked for extra credit because I'm bad at math. Then I go to Howard University, major in finance, still a little anxious because I'm bad at math. And I only took one math at Howard University, Calculus 1. I did it on purpose because we avoid things that will help develop us, and we continue to do the things we're already good at. Remember now, I've been in this academic game for 25 years. And so every time I see a freshman class, I see this point redone over and over, where individuals will only take the classes that they're already good at instead of taking classes where they can develop and get better. So bottom line is I avoided math, and now I'm in a PhD program at the University of Florida. Now watch this. I very seldom speak about race because I think it's irrelevant. It's not about black and white, it's about green. It's really about blue and red. It's about being able to see where those pips are because we're learning a skill that's to the tune of $6.6 trillion. And the markets and the brokers and the trade accounts do not see what color you are. It's about building abundance for our families, and we focus on that. That's all that matters. So I normally don't talk about race, but I have to describe this story. So I went to Howard University for undergrad, and I applied for a fellowship to go to the University of Florida called the McKnight Doctoral Fellowship Program, which is specifically designed for African Americans to increase the number of African American professors in the state of Florida. It was a very competitive fellowship. 300 to 350 people applied every year. They picked 25. So I was picked, and I could now take this take this fellowship and go to any school in Florida. So I chose the University of Florida, but the University of Florida said, you're not good enough to get into our program. So I'll skip past that story, and I got a conditional admit and some other stuff happened, and okay, I'm there, it's fall, it's time for me to go to school or go to class. So there were 7 of us that all started at one time. And we had these schedule cards that we had to get, we had our classes on them. So we went that morning for the first day of class, and there was no schedule card in the black guy's box. So I went to my professor, my graduate coordinator, Dr. Robert Radcliffe, and I said, Dr. Radcliffe, there's no schedule in my box, but my other 6 colleagues, they all had schedules. So Dr. Radcliffe said, you know, son, I've been thinking. Since you went to school at that black school, I think you need to go get a master's at a lesser school and then come back later. All right. One of the worst things you can do to me is tell me what I'm not going to do, because all that does is just motivate the HE double hockey sticks out of me. I'm going somewhere with this story. Stay with me. So what I did was I filled out my own graduate card based on my neighbors or my colleagues. I submitted to registrar. I went to school and said, I'll show him. Because again, I'm looking at the doctor right there. I see it right underneath my face. There's no asterisk on there that says Dr. Radcliffe tried to present a barrier, tried to provide resistance for me to be able to ascend to the level of being a talk with the finance doctor. See, Dr. Radcliffe tried to make it where it was just a talk with Craig Bythewood. But I was intent that it's going to be a talk with the finance doctor 25 years from now. So I went ahead and put the schedule card in. I said all that to say this. The first class I took was called Mathematical Statistics. And I remember like it was yesterday. We all sat in class and they handed out the syllabus. And I looked at the syllabus, and the syllabus said, prerequisite, Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and Calculus 3. Okay, all right. I just committed to myself that I'm going to show Dr. Radcliffe that I'm going to get this PhD. But yet, the dude that has been avoiding math since the 7th grade, who has the label that he's bad at math, who only took Calculus 1 because he avoided math at Howard University, is now being asked to take a class with Calculus 1, 2, and 3. Hear me. Some of the issues, some of the situations that you view as problems are really opportunities for you to grow to where you need to be. That was the day that my life changed. That was the day I realized that I had to change the label I put on myself if I was going to 25 years from now be able to speak on a Talk with the Finance Doctor. My ability to greet you on October 22nd, 2019 at 10 p.m. Eastern, predicated on the fact as me choosing a new label for myself. I believed I was bad at math. There's no way I can finish a class that has a prerequisite of Calculus 1, 2, and 3 and teach myself Cal 2 and Cal 3 if I'm bad at math. So how many labels are you wearing right now? How many labels do you have right now that are self-imposed? How many labels are you wearing at this moment that are keeping you from what you need to do 25 years from now? So I removed the label. I taught myself Calculus 2 and Calculus 3 because I wasn't going to let Dr. Radcliffe win that one. And I finished with a B+, and the rest is history. But the reason why I'm telling that story right now is because I know that some of you were a little intimidated by that wonderful chart that Ms. Dyer gave us. And I want us to feel comfortable with it. And so if you recognize that the only thing in the way of you understanding that chart is the label that you have on yourself, we now can put ourselves in a position where we're going to understand what's going on. I want you to look at your clock right now. 12 minutes from now, 12 minutes from now, you're going to know everything that you need to know to understand the mathematical, economic, statistical numbers that any master's level finance or economics student will know. All you have to do is take a deep breath, remove that label, put a new label on, roll with me. Now, the reason why numbers are sometimes cumbersome in finance is because finance deals with time periods. You're talking about now, you're talking about in the future. Think about it. By the time you do the 125 trades that Ms. Dyer talked about, that's in the future. So in general, when you analyze dollars today versus the future, when you analyze dollars today versus the future, when you analyze dollars today versus the future, they do not have the same value. How do you know they don't have the same value? Well, think about it. Dollars today can buy a certain level of stuff, right? But dollars in the future are going to buy less stuff. Why? Because prices are higher. What do we call it when prices get higher? We call it inflation. Inflation is just a natural way in which dollars, or better yet, the prices of things, whatever currency it's in, it normally goes on an upswing. So there's a value to understanding how to numerically break down numbers that occur in different time periods. And for those of us who study finance, and now every one of you is going to know, and you can tell your kids, and now we just multiplicatively increase the number of people who understand this, it's called time value of money. All time value of money involves is being able to understand the difference between dollars today and dollars in the future. Let me give you a very simple example to make you see how simple this is. What if we buy a stock right now for $1? If we buy a stock right now for $1, and then a year from now, we sell that stock for $1.20. You just did a time value of money calculation. Because $1 is the present value. You bought it for $1 today. $1.20 is the future value. That's what it will be worth in the future. And guess what the rate of return is? 20%. So there are only 4 variables in time value of money. You just learned 3 of them. Boom, you almost have your master's in finance. Dollar, present value. $1.20, future value. Percentage rate that makes the dollar and the $1.20 equivalent, 20%. That's it. We're done. If you've ever bought a car, it's the same thing. The loan value is the present value. When do they let you drive the car off the lot? When the loan clears. When does it clear? Now, present value. Then you have an interest rate based on your credit. Hey, we're going to lower the interest rate for you, they'll say, so they can manipulate you into doing some other things. And then you've got the time period. Are you going to have 60 months or 72? If you have 72, then the payment, which is the 4th variable, that's going to be lower. So think about it. I've just given you 4 variables. Present value, time period, interest rate, payment. That's it. Those are the only 4 variables in time value of money. Now, I'm going to give you a gift. I think that as we continue to increase our ability to have wealth and abundance, we need to know how to manage, and we need to know how to calculate the monies we're going to be dealing with. So one of the things I teach in my classes, and one of the things I'm teaching you right now, is everybody should have an app on their phone that is a financial calculator. Guess what? It's free. So I want you to, right now, pick up your phone, go to your Play Store or your iStore, and I want you to type in financial calculator. Doesn't matter which one you take, but the one I like, I hope you can see this. The one I like is it's a blue background, and it's got a white calculator with little gold coins on it. Doesn't matter which one you take, but if we do this one, we'll all have the same one. So right now, I want you to download this app, Financial Calculators, Financial Calculators. So again, it's a little blue calculator, a blue background with a white calculator, and it has little goals. All you have to do is put time value money, download it. Now, while you're doing that, let me tell you why this is valuable. You download this financial calculator. You roll with me for the next 8 minutes. And yes, it's called Easy Financial Calculator. Thank you, Nigel. And I am going to answer your question too, sir. So you download this financial calculator. You put ourselves in a position to be able to answer questions like this. So my kid is going to be going to college, and they're going to need such and such amount of money by November to pay tuition. So how much money do I need to put into an account each month based on this particular interest rate for them to be able to have that money? So I'm going to be retiring, and I want to be able to take my retirement dollars, and I want to stretch it out over a 25-year period so I can get a certain amount of salary per year. So, you know, I'm in a situation where I want to know, when I walk onto the car lot, I know how much I want to pay. Hear me on this. I know how much I want to pay per month. I know what the average interest rate is based on what I just looked up online. And I know that I could do a 72-month or a 60-month, so I'm going to do my calculation with both so I have some options. And then I want to know, how much car can I afford to buy? Look at how much power you have when you walk on the lot, because you already know what price car you want. Think about it. You do it backwards. You walk on the lot and they say, hey, how much do you want to pay a month? And then you tell them, I want to pay such and such a month. Then they're taught to sell you, hear me, they're taught to sell you the most expensive car on the lot. That's how they make money. So watch this. Your payment, your end, meaning the time period, your interest rate, those 3 variables create a value. If the value of the car that matches your payment, they sell you a car that's higher, they ask you to pay the down payment to make it equal. So unless you have credit issues, you don't have to make a down payment. What they do is they sell you a more expensive car and then make you pay the difference, so it brings it down to the value. So after I teach you how to use this financial calculator, that'll never happen to you again. Because all you have to do is figure it out at home. Before you get in your car or whatever vehicle you use to go to the dealership, figure it out. This is the payment I want. This is the time period I'm going to use. This is the interest rate I'm going to be charged. Bloop, solve for the present value. Oh, $13,989. So then you go to the lot and say, hey, I only want to buy a car that's $12,000. Wait a minute, I thought you said $13,000. Now you put in room for tax, tag, and title, you're covered. See, these are the kind of things we don't do because we have labels that say we're bad at math. And we think this stuff is hard, but not anymore, because you've got an app on your phone that you can use. Now, let me pause for a second before I bring some closure to this. And let me address a question that was asked on the training call. Now, one of the things that we did was we looked at 3% and we looked at 5%. Remember the example I gave about $1 and $1.20, and I showed that it was $1.20. I'm sorry, I said it was 20%. What if I said this? I buy a stock for $1 and I sell it for $1.05. Guess what that is? 5%. What if I said I buy the stock for $1 and then I sell it for $1.03? Guess what that is? 3%. So the percent just represents the rate of return you're making on the trade. So it has nothing to do with leverage. Yes, it's easy financial calculator. And I promise you, doesn't matter what financial calculator you have, they all work. I just think it'll be cool if we all have the same one. So I want to make the distinction between the percentage rate of return and the lot size and the leverage. 3 different things. Leverage means for every dollar that you spend, how much money will the broker lend you so that you can maximize your return and maximize your loss, which is why risk management is so important. Whereas the lot size, which is in the chart, represents the percentage that you put in terms of how big of an investment you're making for each trade. So the percent, the lot size, and the leverage, 3 different things. Remember, IM Academy is not a trading facility. It is an educational platform. So we want to make sure that we dive into the academy and we understand how this works. So you're welcome, Sheila Daniels. So now let's look at our financial calculator. Now, if you open it up to the part that says TVM, TVM stands for time value of money. That's what we're doing right now. We're doing time value of money. And by the way, you can take this financial calculator and you can use it for every single thing that was in that chart. If you take the amount that you put in for the first trade, and then you take the amount that you got for after you did your first positive trade and made that be the future value, and then you solve for the interest rate, guess what it would be? 5%. Or if you took the amount you put in the trade and then you use 5% to be the interest rate, guess what you're going to get? Whatever it is that you put into the trade. So what I'm interested in is just understanding the background infrastructure so we can do our own calculations for the rest of our life. Now, if you open up to TVM calculator, you'll see that there are 5 variables. Let me break these 5 variables down for you. 5 minutes from now, you will know how to use this for the rest of your life, a skill that nobody can take away from you. So you're learning a skill to trade in a $6.6 trillion industry. Now you know how to make the calculations to manage it. So no financial institution will ever be able to dictate to you what's going on because you'll understand. That's being your own bank. Now, you will see 5 variables. First variable is PV. That stands for present value. We talked about that. That's the amount today. The next variable is payment, PMT. Talked about that too. Anytime you make a mortgage payment, anytime you make a car note, anytime there's a payment, hear me, that is the same every single period. That is called a payment. So payment only responds to something that occurs every period and is the same. You've all dealt with them before. Now you have the skill to do your own calculations and you don't have to let finance dictate to you how it works. The next variable is called FV, or future value. So what's a future value? It is any dollar amount that occurs anytime other than today. How easy is that? We're almost finished. Present value, amount today. Payment, an amount that occurs every single period and is the same every single period. Future value, an amount that occurs in the future. Rate. Now hear me, this is important. What does the A stand for in APR? Annual. What does the A stand for in APR? Annual. So in our society, interest rates are always quoted annually. So any interest rate you ever hear, it's per year. Now let's pause for a second and let me just let you understand how powerful the training we just did was. If interest rates are done per year, but you can make 5% per trade. Let me do that again. If interest rates are quoted per year, people seek to make 5% on their portfolio per year, but you can make 5% per trade. Come on, y'all. We have to understand the value of this tool that we have in front of us. And so the last thing is period. Now, if you look right underneath the word period, there's a box that says compounding. And when you click the down arrow on it, it gives you the opportunity to do any type of time period. It has annual, semi-annual, quarterly, monthly, semi-monthly, etc. You know most of the financial transactions that we do in our society are monthly. My point is this. You put in the annual interest rate, you put in the actual amount of time. If it's months, you put it in months. Here's the easy way. I always teach my students to do this. Don't try to figure it out. Let what you put in the calculator be based on life. If you pay the car note every month, put it in months. If you pay the car note every 6 months, put it in semi-annual. So bottom line is it reflects the reality, but the interest rate APR, annual, is always in an annual form. So real quick, present value, put in whatever the dollar is amount today. Payment, put in whatever you're paying per month. Future value, put in whatever the amount is in the future. Rate, put in the annual rate. Periods, whatever the actual periods are that you're dealing with. And then put in how many times you're compounding. And what you do is you put in the values that you want in order to do the calculation. Now you have the app now. You can practice this. You can play with this all day. You can do it to figure out the compounding. We're done. But I want to do a calculation. I want to do one calculation with you, which I think will really bring some value into this whole conversation. That will bring some closure into everything that we're talking about. So I mentioned inflation. I started this conversation off by talking about inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is the overall general increase in prices over time. There has never been a year when there hasn't been inflation. Yeah, there were some times in the 70s where there was some deflation, but the inflation was so high the year later that it evened out. So let me share with you a thought or a statistic. Inflation on average in the United States of America averages 5% a year. That means sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower, but if you go back through the last 100 years, inflation averages 5%. Follow me on this, 5%. Now, Ms. Dyer started this conversation off by saying in 1991, she was making $4.25. That was the minimum wage. And she then mentioned the minimum wage today is $7.25. So I thought to myself, this group of be-your-own bankers would benefit from understanding how to ask questions and calculate how these things operate. So let's do it. Let's pose this question. If the minimum wage in 1991 was $4.25 and the minimum wage today is $7.25, what type of appreciation has the federal government provided to the minimum wagers so that they can function in a society where prices go up? So let me say it again. Inflation averages 5%. I'm almost finished. Give me 2 more minutes. Inflation averages 5%. Now, whenever you're doing a time value of money problem with your new app, with your new skill set to be able to do any time value of money problem that ever comes up, mortgage loans, car loans, how long will it take? The world is at your fingertips now for any calculation you ever want to answer. You have the tool now. Now, whenever you do a calculation where you ask, what is the rate of return or what is the time period? Whenever you do a calculation where you ask, what is the rate of return and what is the time period? You have to understand something. Finance doctor, talk with the finance doctor. The definition of finance is analyzing money coming in and money going out. Money coming in and money going out. That's all we're talking about. Putting money into the brokerage account, pulling out after we compound it. Money coming in, money going out. That's all finance is. I said that to say this. When you do a calculation where you solve for rate or solve for N, you have to put one of the numbers in as negative. Why? Because one's an inflow, one's an outflow. So watch this. Let's take our calculator, and for the present value, let's put in negative $4.25. Why negative? Because in order for us to do this calculation, one of them has to be an outflow. How come you didn't make the other thing negative? You could, but let's just keep it simple. Now, when you type in the number, you'll see that there's a little number pad, and right under the word next, there's a period and a minus sign. If you hit it twice before you type in the number, it'll make it negative. So we're just gonna, where it says present value, we're gonna put in negative $4.25. Again, I know they were getting a positive $4.25 in 1991. We're just doing that so that we can tell the calculator that there's an inflow and outflow going on so it can analyze it. This is a financial calculator, so you've got to put it in the concept of inflows and outflows. So put in for present value negative $4.25. If you're not with me, unmute your mic and ask me a question. Now, for future value, because in my mind, 2019 is the future of 1991. So for future value, I want you to put 7.25. So if you're with me, all I'm saying is it was $4.25. Now it's $7.25, and we know that inflation averages 5% a year. Now, where it says periods, I want you to put 18. Why 18? Because 1991 to 2019 is 18 years. I hope I'm right on that. If I'm not, somebody will correct me. Remember, I used to be bad at math. So negative $4.25 present value. $7.25 future value. Period 18. Now here's the easy part about the way this app works. All you have to do is put in the variables that you're dealing with, and then whatever you want to solve for, you just press it. Now, we're talking about years, right? Isn't 1991 to 2019 in years? So we're going to do a little drop down and we're going to put annual. So how easy is this that what we've done so far? Negative 425 present value. Positive 725 future value. Period 18. Drop down annual. Now, before you do anything, let me talk this out. This is academic theater. What we're going to do next is we're going to hit, don't do it yet, let's talk about it, let's think about it. What we're going to do next is we're going to hit the rate. And the reason why we're going to hit rate is because, oh, I'm sorry, thank you. I thought somebody was going to correct me. It's not 18 years, it's 28 years. Hey, I'm bad at math. So change 18 to 28. That's hilarious. Please change 18 to 28. Thank y'all. I did that on purpose. See, I'm a doctor. I did it on purpose to test y'all, and y'all did well, very well for passing that test. So, negative 425, present value. Positive 725, future value. Periods, 28 years. Periods, 28 annually. So now, I want you to hit rate. Why are you hitting the rate? Because we're asking the question, what's the rate of return? What's the growth percentage of 425 to 725? So somebody type in the chat the answer you got for the rate, 1.93%. So let me make sure I understand this. Inflation goes up by 5% a year. But those of us who have decided not to take the BYRB challenge, who've decided to stay in the same place, who've decided the status quo is okay, they're getting a raise of less than 2% a year. So what is my point? My point is A, I just gave you a new skill. My point is B, this is your incentive for wanting to share this with as many people as possible. Because those of us who are operating on minimum wage are getting a 1.93% raise when it literally costs 5% a year for us to pay for the things we need to pay. This is all the more reason why we should be excited about making 3% or 5% or 10% a trade. Questions, comments, testimonies from anybody? Take this seriously, folks. I've given you a gift the gift of being able to calculate any question that you ever have. Everything that Ms. Dyer showed us in that chart, we can now understand it and comprehend it and justify it and provide more proof and edification for it by using this tool, by understanding this perspective. What we have is such a valuable tool, and we need to walk in it. So I want to remind you how important it is that if you're anywhere near the Tampa Bay area, you come to our Platinum 1000 Advanced Leadership Training. I'm excited about it. It's going to be on Saturday, November 2nd, 12 hours of us getting together and exercising our opportunity to be able to build our businesses. So if you're anywhere near, please go to bylbchallenge.net and register. And I'd like to thank you all for your commitment to this conversation. I'd like to thank you for, I felt you guys on the edge of your seat feeling this, and that means a lot to me because what I just taught you is something you can now share with your children so they can now put themselves on the other side. So yes, I gave you a skill. Yes, I told you how to use time, value, money, but the most valuable thing I said to you tonight is that we have to be so careful, the labels that we put on ourselves, because ourselves will believe that label. So I'll see you guys at the Saturday, November 2nd training, and this will officially close this call.